A new Peacock original series from Will Smith and Westbrook Studios.
Where are we going?
You're gonna stay with your aunt and your uncle.
You get one shot.
What the hell is my life?
At a second chance.
There's no going back.
Bel-Air, streaming now, only on Peacock.
To start the radio side of things, because we kind of need that for the radio show. Fab 22, Mitchell Darling, good to have you here. Penman, gorgeous Pan McSee, Phil Minervino, Stu Gerson, the lovely Sonia's News, Mr. Lurks-a-Lot, good to have you all here. Steve Stockton, good to see you. Mr. Moocher, it's been a while. How you been doing? Good to have you here. Be kind. Always be kind. And who else is here? Let's see here. Ghost 66. Boo to you. Hope I didn't scare you. Apollo 11, nice to have you here. $5,900. Goober Bear, good to have you all here. We are done here. Remember, a great way to support this show is through the Super Chat. The Super Chat is open, and if you feel and deem it necessary, we will say thank you very much. Also, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening audience, and of course, all the veterans out there, thank you so much for tuning us on in. You always have a safe place and home here. If you're looking to do some shopping, you can do so on our store at our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got some great swag. We're going to be adding some more here very, very soon. Alan H. Greenfield. It's an experience that you're going to enjoy tonight. So do us a favor. Get your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. What a great night of radio for you tonight. Alan H. Greenfield comes in to talk aliens, UFOs, and cults. Then in hour 3, we will bring you a story from the swamp, courtesy of Swamp Dweller. Fedora John joins us for the UFO report. Shirky Poo's got the news, and we got the thought of the day as well. Alan Henry Greenfield is an American-born occultist, ufologist, and author of long involved in the Free Illuminist movement. He was given the mystical title and charter as Tau Sir Hazarim in 1986 and 1991 by Hierophant Michael Bertiot of Chicago, Illinois. Greenfield was elected to the mystical grifter of the Gnostic Assembly in 86 and in 94 again. Now, this man is known mainly for his book, The Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots. It's a very strange book, even for the field of ufology. Discusses UFOs in terms derived from Carl Jung, according to Robert Anton Wilson. It was written back in 1994, but more than relevant today. Mr. Alan Greenfield, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to get you to unmute your microphone. How you doing? And welcome back to SOR.
I'm doing just fine. Can you hear me?
You sound just beautiful. Just beautiful.
Well, I don't know about beautiful. But
no, it's true.
At least I'm alive, you know.
What have you been up to? It's been just over a year since we had you on the show last. And it seems like every time that we bring you on, something strange always happens, either before or after this show. Now, last time beforehand, Olaf Phillips, your good friend and publisher, and a very good friend of mine in this show, him and I had a very weird encounter where he called me at 3:33 in the morning. His phone never registered that he called me, and that's where I got the strange symbol of the diamond with the two antlers.
I remember.
And then our good friend Nicole Sakic, a couple months after we had talked, her and I had the exact same dream that night. She's in Illinois, I'm in British Columbia, and we drew almost the identical symbol that we had seen the night before. So I blame you for all of this. I hope you don't mind.
No, I don't mind, but it does seem to happen whenever I'm, spaced out, as it were. And
Absolutely.
I do recall that because I don't know whether Olive just got us on a joint line, whatever they call that these days, or whether you called me. But at the time, you were out in the boondocks and thought there might be something outside ready to give you an experience that you weren't too sure about. So I said, get yourself an Orgone energy gun because they thrive on Orgone. And if you actually sap that, it's better than, conventional weapons, we'll say. And I based that on Wilhelm Reich's experiments with shooting down UFOs in the 1950s. There were lots of witnesses, or I would doubt it. But hey, you're okay, so I guess it all turned out all right.
Nothing happened. My aliens went away. They went away.
Yeah, I thought that they would, but I also I was concerned that middle of the night you've just talked to me about stuff, and to make it worse, you talked to Olive, who could scare a conspiracy out of a rock, and so we talked it over, and I beamed a few messages here, there, and everywhere, and voila, we're all okay for the moment.
For the moment. And you know what? I was willing to go for the ride. I'm not going to lie. I was ready. I was waiting, and unfortunately it didn't happen, but you know what? I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. You know what I want, Alan? I want that experience where I'm awake like you and I are, and I've got a big backyard behind me, and I want to come out of this show one night and have a UFO landed in my backyard, and I'm just looking at this thing, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go for a ride. It's time to go for a ride. And literally, I know I'm going to crap my pants between my door and the UFO, but I'm okay with that. Okay? I'm okay with that. And I'm hoping it's figuratively and not realistically that happens. And I want to walk down there, man. I want to walk on that ship, and I want some little drone thing to say to me, where are we going, sir? And then I say, let's go to the moon, and it says, compliance. I really want this to happen. I'm begging for it.
Apparently you are right now. And it's being, I remember when Andy Sinatra, the Mystic Barber, was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he said he was beaming his messages using the device that he had on to his friends in space. And he said something that I thought was probably not the right thing to say on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, which is, I'm going to make you famous, Johnny. Well, I think he already was famous, but Andy was a crazy guy, but I think he had the right equipment there because the thing on his head was an Orgone energy cloudbuster. So I don't know what his connection to that was, but they called him the Mystic Barber, and he was kind of a really weird guy, and the audience was laughing at him. And he left because he was, they had an opening guest, and then they shuffled them out because they weren't worthy of being on with the stars and the personalities and candidates for public office or dictator of some third world banana republic, whatever, And he left, and the camera goes right to the face of Johnny Carson. And he said, what if he really is what he says he is? And the audience went totally silent. You just can't tell because some of the craziest contact stories. My favorite is the Joe Simonton case where he whipped up some buckwheat pancakes for the aliens. I don't know if it was Keel or Valet who was the first to make a point of the silliness of some of these encounters is designed to go public so that the public doesn't get excessively curious and try to figure out, what's really going on. And it does, but that doesn't, silliness does not make a case invalid. It actually is a plus.
For people who may not be familiar with your strange life that you have had, you've for over 50 years been an occultist, UFO researcher. You've been very much into, the other side of life where it's not about the white picket fence, the 2.1 children and the dog and the cat. It's about, learning that there is more to life here. How did this all begin for you?
Well, that's a two-part answer, in fairness. Okay, when I believe it's ingrained in me, or it's a holdover from a previous incarnation, or whatever. But at the very beginning, I should say this: my mother was like, she went to the movies every day. This is pre-television and long before the internet. So she would go to downtown Augusta, Georgia. And when I came along, she'd take me with her. So I was, for some reason, she liked to favor science fiction movies, which were then, first movie I ever saw, which according to her little baby book on me, I saw a total of 5 times with her, was Destination Moon. An absolutely, totally fictional account based on a Heinlein story that human beings would travel someday to the moon. Of course, that's no longer science fiction. That's done and past done. And so that at this point, there is a generation of people who don't believe that it actually happened. And, more power to them. I think it's about to happen again. Point being that I was always interested in this stuff. And the next thing I remember was my family went to Miami every year for a month, actually. My father would drive us down at 120 miles an hour on US 1, which there were no interstates in those days. And stay for 2 weeks, go back to Augusta or later Atlanta, and then come back for 2 weeks and pick us up. So he got his 2 weeks off, and we managed to put in a month every year. So he was there, and I can't give you the exact date, but I can come pretty close. It was July 1952, a very important month in the history of ufology. But do note, I was barely out of the egg at that point, so to speak. And my father was talking to somebody, I don't know, saying, those flying saucers were seen over restricted airspace in Washington, and it caused a wild panic. Why I remember that moment, I can't tell you, because I was 4 or 5 years old. I mean, I could compute it exactly, but why would I care at that age? I certainly didn't care about the then going on Korean War or the McCarthy Army hearings, which, those things just sort of bounced off of me because I was a child. But you mention flying saucers or ghosts or anything of that sort, and immediately the little ears go perk up. That is answer number one. Answer number two is in 1960, which, the Freudians would say, oh, well, it's a pubescent period. Yes, it was. And by coincidence, or more likely synchronicity, I joined the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomena because I had seen a UFO and reported it. And they said, that's very interesting. Why don't you join us? So I did. And I also joined the Mystic Arts Book Society, which basically every occult book then available, and they were not nearly as many as there are now, that wasn't nailed down by copyright, they republished, and that was out there. And like I started subscribe to Fate magazine and Ray Palmer's Flying Saucers magazine, and it had a free column in it called Saucer Club News. And a bunch, well, not really a bunch, about 8 or 10 teenagers put ads in for their organization, usually consisting of them, maybe them and their mother, but maybe them and their father in a couple of cases. So I started a group called the Research Organization of Aerial Phenomena, as opposed to APRO, ROAP. And that kind of merged into a publication that a guy was giving up called the UFO Citer. So I took over that, much to Gene Steinberg's disappointment because he wanted it. But the guy gave it to me before he disappeared from this planet. And it went from there. I mean, those that are still around, and unfortunately, we've lost some. My really good friend since the early 1960s, Tim Beckley, passed away last year. And I won't be seeing him again until we do the seance to contact him on the other side, which probably will be done live and in color and on screen. So
I want to see that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get somebody to, there's always the possibility of failure. Unlike, people that do mediumship for money, I don't assume or think or anything else that you can just do it on cue. I mean, I did spend 5 years working for the Psychic Friends Network, which was, despite what you can hear about other services of that sort, I mean, it was... The owners, I assume, were in it for the money. They previously had done racing touting, I guess. But then so does the people who, monitor political events. So I don't know that they weren't legitimate. But the people that worked for Psychic Friends underwent exhaustive testing, both we'll call it secular things. They had to have a good resume from business or whatever, and also got tested as psychics. And periodically there would be a call from an employee to check on what you were saying to your clients too, and you never knew that, that was going on, for which we got 25 cents a talk minute. But I did work for them for 5 years, and I discovered a couple of things. One of them being, you can't do it on cue. You have to have some theatrical sense involved, because sometimes the cards just don't show you what you think you can say to somebody that you only have however long they're on the phone with you. People would call 90% of the calls were romance and finance and lost pets and things of that sort. Occasionally the lottery number, which I was real good at, except if I tried to do the lottery. But that never worked for me, but I got callbacks from people who, I won. And it wasn't common enough. And I did keep records that it was like, I claimed to be like 75, 80% accurate, but on those I was 100%. Every one I gave, they scored on. Now, we're not talking about the big one. We're talking about 3-digit, lottery numbers. But
Alan, I want to ask you, because there's so much to go over in the next little bit. We got 5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Disclosure. You've been in the UFO world for 5 decades, 6 decades now, and you have seen all sorts of disclosure, come and go. They're going to tell us what's going on. They're not going to tell us. When you look at what is happening today, my friend, with UFOs in the Pentagon and Lou Elizondo and the government getting involved and the task forces, what do you think is going on? Break it down for us.
Well, I think I know what's going on, but I have, as often is the case, a controversial opinion about disclosure. And it is based on, you are quite correct, there have been expectations of exposure over and over and over again. Starting with Project Sign in 1947, became Project Grudge. They say those names are auto-generated, but it sounds like, all they would do is say, oh, no, that was a balloon, whatever. And then it became Project Blue Book, and that was around for quite some time. Their chief scientist was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who made the mistake of defecting, which is to say he decided that there was something of value involved in UFOs. So they fired him. Then they turned the matter over to Dr. Edward U. Condon, who issued a report, and the expectations. Condon even showed up at our convention that year. It was the biggest we ever put on, a 1967 National UFO Conference, where we drew in, I think, 12,000 people, or 3,000 people that showed up 4 nights. I can't really figure. I worked there, but I didn't sponsor it. That was sponsored by my late friend Jim Mosley, who spent 12,000 1967
Good things are going on.
Health.
There in Mississippi.
The importance of health. Blue Health. The experience of what it means to be healthy. Because taking care today leads to an even healthier tomorrow. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be healthy. It's good to be blue.
Streaming now, Bel Air, a new Peacock original series.
Where are we going? You're gonna stay with your aunt and your uncle.
From executive producer Will Smith and Westbrook Studios.
Do you know why I'm here from Philly? Scrapping the bull court, got nasty.
You get one shot
Give this a real chance.
So you can show these rich people how much you care about poor black kids from the hood?
at a second chance.
Why are we working so hard to save a boy who doesn't want to be saved?
Because we owe it to him.
There's no going back.
Bel Air, streaming now with new episodes every Thursday, only on Peacock.
US dollars on it. So that would be, I don't know, more like $60,000 in today's money. And he made it back, but not more than, it was money in, money out. Condon showed up. There were expectations that his big report would reveal the truth about UFOs. Instead, it was another poo-poo report. Although if you read it in details, if you had the patience to go through a book that was thicker than the King James Bible, you would find a number of reports that seemed to be of great importance. But the bottom line conclusion was a foregone conclusion. There's no evidence of any kind of non-terrestrial origin for any of these things, which contradicts the individual case reports that are in that very report. So, having done that and come out of 1967, a long, long time ago, doesn't seem like yesterday, even for me. It's long, long ago. And I became quite cynical about government programs. In fact, I even had to go through my United States Senator, who at that time was the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Richard Russell, diehard Dixiecrat. But he was, I made the argument, I hear the files are being destroyed. I would like to see them because whatever you think about flying saucers, they are of significant sociological value and possibly of scientific value, which he bought into. sent me the form for a security clearance, and I was able to go see the Blue Book files. So I say what I think from some direct knowledge of what the government did up until this recent thing with the Navy, which has always had a curious interest in some of this stuff, going back to the M.K. Jessup's The Case for the UFO, which was heavily annotated and then reprinted by the Navy's then publisher.
Right.
That's a whole program in and of itself. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to go there except to say, in reviewing all of the work done up until that point, and as far as I'm able to divine since then, the government project to investigate UFOs consists of, I'll tell you what it consists of after this word.
All right. Alan H. Greenfield, Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots, is his major book that you need for your collection if you're into UFOs. Check it on out. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Oh, I could talk to you for hours. Hours.
Well, I don't know how they're going to take to what I have to say about that, because the Disclosure Project people are pretty fanatical.
Well, I do want
to.
I do want to just remind you that our YouTube audience can hear us right now. So.
Oh well, I love YouTube and watch it frequently, and I must say that's where I first saw the Hellier program.
Yeah.
And that is fabulous. And I think the way they're covering it is fabulous. And
have you heard from...
I'm not using any naughty words or anything.
Have you heard...
I'm being a good boy.
Have you heard from Greg and Dana lately? Like, are they still continuing Hellier? Or, because I know they shut it down pretty much due to COVID. Or have they moved on?
Well, they didn't shut it down. They just... I think they're working on other projects, and yes, I'm when Facebook sort of removed me from their presence, their august presence, or rather their machines did. I've always had a Twitter account, but it never consisted of anything but reprinting, articles from newspaper. I comb the media for weird stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And so that was, just auto-generated on Twitter. But since I can no longer be on Farcebook, or whatever they care to call themselves, there is a new name, Media or something. Be that as it may, I do feel that Twitter has been a means of communication for all kinds of people that are interested in the weird stuff, and I've developed a pretty good size audience there. So I talk to Greg every day almost, because we're both on Twitter, and he talks about what they're doing now. Dana also has, I guess, what you would call a column on Twitter. So yeah, they're doing several other projects, but I think they intend to give it a long rest, and then there may very well be a Hellier 3. There certainly should be, and I've encouraged them to do that. But they, I guess they had such great winners with Hellier 1 and Hellier 2. They probably wanted to wait a while before, exhausting the interest, which I don't think is the case, but I understand it. Of course, if you've ever seen them on, you will notice that that they base a lot of their stuff on synchronicities.
Yes,
which I advise them. I'm not saying I'm the only one. John Tenney has also advised them extensively, but to follow the synchronicities, because I know from personal experience, if you follow the synchronicities, then you will, in fact, find out a great deal about flying saucers and cryptids and subatomic physics, and it will change everything in your life. That's just the case. And they're well on the way. In fact, I don't know if it was me that pointed it out to them or if they figured it out themselves, because, I didn't record everything that I ever said to them. But they do follow synchronicities, and they do take this whole phenomena very seriously. And the thing that I liked was, in contrast to all of these History Channel programs, some of which I've done in the past, I won't do them now, their Hellier documentary is for real. I've done a lot of field research myself. I know what it's like out there, including the fact that it isn't some big bugaboo that happens. But if you follow the synchronicities, you are performing a magical ritual. And when you perform a magical ritual properly, important stuff occurs within and without. I took a big interest in the vision of and then finding this cup in an abandoned mine, because my most current book, concerning the real Holy Grail, it's been pointed out that the original probably was more a tin cup, and that was what was seen in the vision that was documented.
1 second, Alan. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you all with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The legendary Alan H. Greenfield is here. The Secret Ciphers of the UFO Knots, probably one of the most important books ever when it comes to UFOs, aliens, what we are doing here with humankind, and the ET presence. Alan, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here, and glad that we were able to come back and they didn't take me away in between. Hey.
Right before the break, we were talking about disclosure and what we are seeing today. You have had extraterrestrial contact for pretty much the last 50 years.
Ultra-terrestrial. I prefer,
yes.
When John Keel came up with that term, I quickly appropriated it for my own use because it seems to fit the nature of these phenomena, plural, much better than just the notion of Mars attacks. It's a more complicated origin than that, and that partly is based on my experience in ceremonial magic. The stuff that you conjure up in ceremonial magic under controlled circumstances is at rock bottom identical to the UFO beings, to near-death experiences, to certain psychedelic experiences, which I urge people not to try, and because that's uncontrolled by definition, and many, many other phenomena that are thought to be plural that I think are one under the title ultra-terrestrial. But yeah, that goes back a long, long way for me,
So for you, when you look at disclosure and you look at the extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial side of things, how do we blend the two? Is it even possible in today's day and age?
Well, what I discovered, as I was saying before the break, was that the government projects, at least up through the beginning of this century, so they've been at it since 1947, and that's getting on to, 76 years, 74 years, has always been low, very low priority. There's one exception, and I'll mention that if I have time to, but basically this is what every project that the government has done, the U.S. government anyway. I think there are a few others that have done more interesting things. But it consisted of a middle-level officer, captain or a major, an enlisted person, usually Air Force enlisted person, and a secretary. That is it. And if you think they have found out more about UFOs than any of us out in the, shall we say, private sector, who have been willing to, basically devote much of our lives and family fortunes to, I think you would be very wrong. The disclosure comes from people like me, not from the government, which takes an interest mainly, and rightly so, mainly in terms of somebody else's secret weapons or things that endanger the well-being of the nation that they're sworn to protect. The 1952 wave went over restricted airspace, which translates into the Pentagon, the White House, and the Capitol. Well, we found out on 9/11 that there are reasons why that's restricted airspace, because the vulnerability there is tremendous. What happened was UFOs were seen, they were on radar, jets were scrambled, and at that time, when bombers were more prevalent than rockets or ICBMs. Well, I don't know if ICBMs even exist. I don't think they did. But, there were rocket-based technologies of a sort. There was the Ground Observer Corps, which was volunteer civilians all over the United States, and the radar system that begins in the Great White North, in the very north of the Great White North, and the NORAD early warning system, because they feared that the Russians would attack us over the poles, which I don't think that was coming, but they thought that it was. So the CIA convened a panel the year later, and they were very concerned. It was a panel of, like eight distinguished scientists. I mean, it was not, number one priority, but they were concerned, given the mentality in the United States in the early 1950s about the McCarthy era and communist under every bed or whatever, that the Soviet Union could infiltrate the little tiny flying saucer organizations of that period and create a fake flap, which would get the attention of the military and the media and everything else, and would allow for a sneak attack on the United States. I think that was a totally unfounded idea, but there was some interaction there with, they're not supposed to be CIA agents. They're not supposed to operate within the, within the borders of the United States. But some of the early Men in Black cases may have been people sent to scare off UFO groups. And indeed, a couple of them were the earliest ones were shut down out of fear, I guess. Doesn't mean that there wasn't also the Men in Black phenomena as I and many other people have experienced it. They don't seem to be human at all, and I don't think the CIA can fake non-human entities that dissolve. That's not part of the deal. But other than that, it's always been a very, very small operation because it's not considered a priority. And that being the case, what are you looking for disclosure for? I say to the disclosure people, if you want disclosure, come to the ufologists, not the ones who, just automatically think, oh, these are nuts and bolts craft, just like the ones we've sent to the moon and Mars. That's not sufficient. There are Bigfoot sightings in relationship to UFO stuff. There are sightings of beings that vanish like that. I don't think they're being beamed up to the USS Enterprise. I think they are what the Tibetans call tulpas. That is, they're thought forms of some advanced technology, and they only have temporary existence. They do whatever they're supposed to do, whether they take the form of little green men in an obscure town in Kentucky, otherwise not famous, and or that's the other end of Kentucky from Hellier. And people say, oh, the goblins were here. Yeah, well, I think they were more likely tulpas, although I'm not sure that the terms are really that different, I mean, it just amounts to the same thing under a different guise. Whitley Strieber pretty well described that, and it's accurately portrayed in the movie version of his book Communion, where the alien, he asks it to reveal itself towards the end of the movie, and it takes off a mask, and there's another mask, and there's another mask, and another mask, all of them different. And Stryber says in the movie anyway, I don't remember if it was in the book, you're never going to reveal yourself as you actually are you? And the implication was no. I mean, we might figure it out, but there's never going to be the revelation. They're not going to hand us their true nature. They prevaricate. And perhaps that is even necessity. If you go into the notion of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which I think may be correct, there are multiple, maybe an infinite number of other worlds that are right here and right where you're sitting and right where your audience members are sitting. But we don't see them and we don't interact with them under ordinary circumstances. And the current scientific opinion is they exist, but we can't go there and they can't come here. I just posted a thing today about something coming out of a black hole, and that's supposed to be impossible. Once in, never out. You progress the level at which the scientific understanding of what M theory, membrane theory, and you will find, I think, that it's a question of the technology used, and technology is very close to magic here. Arthur Clarke said a truly advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic. Right he was for once. So that is often quoted by a lot of people. I don't quote it that often myself, but it is true. And people can create portals if they're well-initiated ceremonial magicians. If that's the case, there could be technologies which allow portals to open from the other side, from some say 12 other universes, some say an infinite number. If they're an infinite number, by definition, anything that you can postulate that happens.
For peace of mind when it comes to buying a used car, shop Peretti Pre-Owned. Our selection has never been better and prices are coming down. Don't see what you're looking for? Just order it and we'll find it for you. All backed by the Peretti Pledge, just like our new cars.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Wait a minute. I've heard that before. That's the note Jeremy wrote to me in my yearbook in the 6th grade. How'd you even know that?
Because it's from Geico.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Dear Luke, have a great summer. P.S. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. Love, Jeremy.
Geico's had this tagline for years, because we help save people money.
So wait, you're saying Jeremy copied you? Yeah, that actually does sound like something the J-Man would do.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Does. So they're here, and we experience it as glitches in the matrix, whether it's, little men or whatever.
Okay, so the cover-up or the narrative that is going on with any sort of disclosure these days, do you look at that as a positive for humanity or a negative because we're not getting the full story of what the government may or may not know? And I'm a strong believer, Alan, that the government knows a hell of a lot more than what they are playing dumb to right now.
Well, that's entirely possible. And it may be more the government of the UK or of Canada or of Sweden or of Argentina, countries that have looked at these things with a bigger budget than the United States. But, hey, there could always be something that, by definition, I don't know about. And I don't want to, be poisoned with polonium or anything. By the way, also Russia, which has taken this stuff seriously since the heyday of the Soviet Union back in Stalin's time. So the latter days of Stalin's time. So it's there's information out there. But what I'm saying is I don't believe that anything that they know, other than things about secret weapons and, and also floating disinformation about weapons that don't exist. Like when stealth technology first came forward, it was supposed to be blind to radar. Well, it isn't exactly blind to radar. It's just harder to pick up on radar. But that was super, super secret until, I guess, the first Gulf War. And then they brought out the, probably a little before that, but they brought out these disc-shaped devices that were bombers and were thought to be the successor to the B-52, which has been around as long as me. So make of that what you will. It's a first-line defense thing. But, yeah, I think there is, the bottom line is there's more information available, a lot more than is known by the general public. You're absolutely right. And in the absence of that information, that's when really wacko conspiracy theories come out of the woodwork. So you're doing a great, great public service by looking into all these things. And I try, in my humble way, to show some of this stuff so that you don't just get rumors, because rumors tend to turn very nasty very quickly and usually lead back to witches or Jews poisoning the wells. That's just something deeply embedded in human nature. And I'm being Jewish, I'm kind of sensitive to that. I don't think the Anunnaki are running the government, but I know those stories from other contexts, the learned teaching of the elders of reptile. It's an old trope, and I'd watch out for it.
Okay, so basically, keep your eyes open. Don't believe what is being said. Read between the lines to find your own answer. Exactly.
And trust the serious ufologists, that is, people that are not charging you for a seminar or whatever. People that devote their lives to it. Talk to them. They'll tell you what's going on and what has been going on for forever, for going back to primordial times, and can provide pretty decisive evidence of that. It's there. I usually, if I give a talk or something, I say, ask me any question. I prefer not to give a lecture. I prefer to say, pass to the host, pass out index cards and say, write down your question, and whatever it is, are you a member of the Communist Party? What's it like is the moon really made of green cheese? Whatever they ask, I will answer. I mean, including, I have no idea what that is, but actually I've never gotten a question that's like that, but I would, cop to that if can you do the math in theoretical physics that allows for multiple worlds? I'd say math was never my subject,
Alan,
I know the bottom line, though.
Alan, what do the aliens want us to know about disclosure or the fact that they are here?
I don't know that they want us to know that. That is the key thing they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know that they exist. Because if they did, it would be easy enough to prove it. They want us to keep guessing. Now, there are two different things that could mean, and it depends basically on whether you're inclined towards sweetness and light, or sort of a darker view of the world. I do tend towards the latter, not because I consider myself dark-sided, but because I see a lot of bad stuff in the world. And in the universe. I mean, there's so many things out in the universe that would be, the asteroid fad, which is a fad. Asteroids have been passing the Earth, which is a very small target in, cosmic terms, forever. But since the Hubble went into orbit, we're acutely aware of their passing fairly close to the Earth. And once every million years or so, a big one hits the Earth and it changes everything. But we're not due for that. And at any given time, there are a lot closer to home things to worry about than an asteroid hitting us. But it makes good clickbait on the internet, so there are plenty of sites that say doom and gloom. And I say, I think we're going to make okay until we don't, which is, that's obviously the case. But what the aliens want us to know is precisely what the common thinking is among what I call nuts and bolts ufologists, mostly people from an engineering background, a lot of them from a NASA background. And I don't mean anything conspiratorial. I think people tend to think in terms of their own, background. They try to fit the round peg in the square hole, or the round peg, they mistake it for a round hole, and it just may not fit. It might be the wrong approach. They purvey this sort of, the flying saucers are here from name a planet, a real one, not one of the funny names that are meant to be decoded. And they are extraterrestrial visitors, just as we are in the beginnings of an age where we are going out to other planets. And it's not that simple. Yeah, they may be from other planets. They may be from other dimensions. They are likely to give false information in various civilizations. We are gods, or we are the masters of the universe, or we are the engineers, as in the alien sequence, or whatever. But that is, I guess what I'm saying is whatever they say and whatever the prevailing view in ufology is likely to be wrong. So, you have to go to what are they not saying? What is not being said in the mainstream? What is not being said by people who are expecting the government to spill the beans? Maybe the beans are so esoteric and so transformative that they don't dare reveal it. If there, God forbid, there were an asteroid actually headed towards the Earth, I'm not sure they would tell people. If it were a killer asteroid, what would be the point? I mean, I would advocate it. I believe in openness about almost everything. On the other hand, I don't think it's necessarily a good idea for the government to post a how to build a nuclear device 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's probably a bad idea. How to build, to create a virus that destroys all life on Earth. It's perfectly within the capability of modern biology, but I don't recommend that being something that is put up on the internet for free and for nothing. It's a bad, bad idea, and maybe that's already happened.
Alan, when we come back from the break here at the top of the hour, we're going to get into more aliens and secret ciphers and occults and everything else we can jam in, because we have you for one more hour on the show tonight, and you're always filled with knowledge and filled with grace and poise, and I love having you here. We may have to do it again.
Thank you.
Very, very soon, but first, we got hour number 2 of Alan Greenfield. His book, The Secret Cipher of UFO Nods, is one of the must-reads when it comes to UFOs, extraterrestrials, and humanity in general. Spaced Out Radio continues with hour number 2 next. Stay tuned.
Have I rained on anybody's parade here?
No, you're doing great, man.
Okay. I always say when I give an in-person talk, which the last couple of years has been a rarity, if half the audience doesn't leave in anger, I haven't done my job right, because I'm here to amaze and amuse, So
I hear you.
And make people think. That's what my friend Gray Barker used to say. What it's all about is to make people think. And that may be the closest thing to a solution of a positive nature that we'll get. But maybe the Hellier folks will. I hear they've been working on something from Bigfoot. I don't know that from them. I know that from another source that bumped into them at Mount Shasta. But we'll see what their next revelation is. But since I think UFOs and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and ghosts and near-death experiences and
all tied together,
they're all basically different aspects of the same thing. The thing about the blind men touching the elephant, and one touches the tail and says, "Oh, it's like a snake," and another one touches its body and says, "Oh, well, it's more like a whale," and one touches the tusk and says, "No, it's hard and sharp." And they're all right, but they can't see the elephant because they're looking at the parts and not trying to infer from that something like a snake, something like a smooth whale-like body and tusks is very likely an elephant.
Pretty much.
It probably is, unless it's a woolly mammoth, and they're hard to come by these days.
Let's see here. Well,
that is a good comment, boy.
Which one?
From Michael. Well done, Alan. The audience is tough enough and mature enough. I tell it like it is, and they can turn it off, or they won't turn it off because you're their daily fix, their friends, their person who can reassure them. And I'm the devil. But I'm a good devil. Devilish, not devil. Devil. I should go warm up my tea.
We have about 3 minutes.
Well, it only takes 30 seconds to warm it up.
You run.
Okay. I'm going to turn off the camera so you won't see me falling down or whatever.
All right. Well, I'll mute you too. And there we go. Love Alan Greenfield. It's awesome. I want to say a big thank you to Cat Chaser, Phil, Doug, Michael, Jim, Bob, and Ghost Dragon for the amazing super chats tonight. Really does help what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. And a big thank you to all our new listeners who are tuning us on in. If this is your first time, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. And thank you to all the veterans who are tuned on in. You always have a safe place here in our chat room. So thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate everything that you do. And if you want any SOR swag, you can head to our store on our website at spacedoutradio.com. We got some cool stuff there. Vegas 2022, the SOR fan party. We are filling up fast. First 50 people get swag bags from us. We are going to the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas, so make sure you check that out. We're going to have a live show with Lynn Wallington and a plethora of very cool people who've been on this show before, and that cost is only $25 for that part. The rest of the weekend, hang out with us. Just party. Share your stories. We want a woo weekend in Vegas, April 22nd to 24th at the Golden Nugget. Kira is coming. She has announced it officially. She is coming to Vegas. That puts our number up to 43. 43. I thought we were going to get like 20. I really did. I thought we were going to get like 20. We got like 43 fans coming so far. Oh, look who it is. It's the scowling Greg O'Brien. Yeah, that man rocks a hat backwards harder than anybody. There he is. Good buddy of ours over at Disclosure Tonight with Thomas Fessler. Love his channel. And Greg, thank you for coming on in. You're a good friend of this show. Alan Greenfield is our guest tonight. We're going to get going here in about 45 seconds. So make sure you hang on out. We're going to get it going. So much fun. So much fun.
Yes, indeed. Smash that like button. I've been around too long. Hey, you said I've had an interesting life.
You have.
I like to say so far, I'm still doing it until I'm not. That's
good.
The deal. And it's still pretty weird. Maybe weirder than it ever was. I don't know.
All right, Alan, I'm going to get you to hold on there. We're going to run right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hamshackle. Hamshackle is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. And tonight, Alan H. Greenfield is here, the author of the fantastic book, The Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots, and we're talking everything to do with UFOs, disclosure, and everything in between. Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm still delighted to be here.
Wonderful.
And I wanted to mention my my latest book. I mean, there's a couple in the hopper, but The Grail Within is unique. And if you're talking about, for example, I was mentioning before that you can open portals using magical techniques, which is a verifiable thing. And I've always advocated do it under controlled circumstances, and then you know whether you're being effective or not effective, which has been generally ignored by the magical community. But that is my approach. It's known as scientific illuminism, not to be associated with the Bavarian Illuminati, of which there isn't one anymore, and never has been since the 18th century. It's good fodder. Anyway, so being a scientific illuminist and knowing that you can use these techniques, the most powerful technique, and rarely discussed, at least in personal terms, is sexual magic, which is harnessing the energy of sexuality for magical purposes, because there's no stronger form of energy available. And if you've read Wilhelm Reich on orgone energy, which is identical to prana or tigli or chakra workings or chi or ki, depending on the culture that you're in, and also dark energy, deotic force. They're all the same thing.
Good things are going on.
Health.
There in Mississippi.
The importance of health. Blue Health. The experience of what it means to be healthy. Because taking care today leads to an even healthier tomorrow. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be healthy. It's good to be blue.
Good things are going on.
Health.
There in Mississippi.
The importance of health. Blue Health. The experience of what it means to be healthy. Because taking care today leads to an even healthier tomorrow. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be healthy. It's good to be blue.
And they do have an interaction with human sexuality, and properly harnessed, they can open all kinds of doors. And that's what The Grail Within deals with. And it talks about my own personal experiences, which was an awkward thing to write about in detail, but I did. And at first only distributed 93 copies to people that I took to be high initiates who wouldn't misuse it. And like all of the books on that subject, of which there are not a lot, but there are some, it talks about the theoretical aspects of it, how it works, why it works, how it doesn't work, how it applies to people's individual lives. I wanted to do something that, as far as I'm aware, no one else, except long ago, a guy named Lewis Culling did a little bit of it, to tell my personal experiences. Now, I didn't tell all of them, obviously, because there are a lot of them. But I told some of the best after, talking about the theoretical aspects. So I really think if you read this book, The Grail Within, you really know the key to all magic, but you'll also be able to delve into the solution to all of these, almost said apports, the manifestations that we talk about, be it at the bottom of Loch Ness or the top of the Tibetan plateau in the form of the, quote, abominable, unquote, snowman, i.e. Yeti, i.e. Bigfoot in white fur. I mean, I don't know what they're charging for the book, but it's, modestly priced. So for the price of the book, you can discover whether any of this is true or any of this is false. And please make it public, I mean, I'm always up for critiques as long as they're, well-intended. And, that they're constructive. They're not personal attacks on me or whatever, because why should it be? I'm just a guy. So, read the admonitions, get, if sexual magic is not your thing, there are other forms like Enochian workings that are totally non-sexual, at least in any kind of overt sense. And use those techniques. Be sure to keep a record. Be sure to have basically a neutral witness or witnesses. And whatever happens, happens. One of the Free Illuminist bodies that I didn't charter it directly, but it was chartered by a body that I chartered. In New Orleans, actually did one of the rituals that I suggested in Complete Secret Cipher, the Euphonauts. You won't find it in the original Secret Cipher, but it is in the second half of the Complete Secret Cipher, the Euphonauts. I can't. There's a message that's really going to distract me.
Alan Greenfield's a golden god or a chaos demon. Either way, it's awesome.
I'm a Reformed Jew that belongs to a traditional temple that's been here since 1856. We do social action stuff. And
for you,
pray now and again.
For you, how do magic rituals tie into daily life? How can we use these to improve on who we are? Whether it's a sexual ritual, whether it's just a magic ritual, or whatever it may be.
Well, if you have a fixed regimen, you will find that, for example, the something that I just recently applied the cipher to, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. I think it's a misnamed ritual because it's not lesser anything. And I've taken to saying that over and over. By the way, it's not in a current book. I did it and I put it out on, I don't know, on the internet or somewhere. If you understand a ritual like that and perform it, let's say at the beginning of your day, at the end of your day. Notice I don't say in the morning because I'm a night person. So I guess that makes me the demon, right? I wonder if that's...
I don't think so, because I'm a night person. I kind of like myself.
I'm not demonic, no. I mean, I'm willing to look at anything, and I certainly know about conjuring demons, but I think... one of the things that I teach is I teach people thoroughly how to exorcise and or banish anything of a negative nature that they invoke, and they best have pure reasons for doing an invocation of that sort, which often is not the case. So, I mean, if you interfere with the true will of any individual, you are violating their most sacred nature. And I think that is something that leads down a very, very, very dark path. So I don't recommend it. But if you want to do something with what I've posited about portals being the source of all of these phenomena, plural again, why don't they have a different word? Phenomenon and phenomena is so close that, I mean, you almost have to say plural or singular. And I think they are all, part of the same, they're different aspects of the same entirety. And you can experiment with that magically, with or without my book. And also there's a chapter in the Complete Secret Cipher that is devoted to a particular ritual, kind of based on a ritual that was proposed by the one of the great magicians of the last century, Kenneth Grant, the so-called Mass of the Mirror. Anyway, our New Orleans group did a ritual on YouTube that was based on the chapter that I did. I didn't know about it until after the fact, and I watched it, and they seemed to think it worked. I seem to think that it was done on the wrong day because it's supposed to be done at the time of the helical rising of Sirius. Astronomical factors do figure into almost all magical treatises from the year one, so it's important to do it at the right time. But they seemed satisfied with it. And that's the kind of documentation, good, bad, or otherwise, that I think people should do. If you do a magical ritual, and, in Hellier, they do that Pan ritual, which is quite something. It's right there for anyone to see and to critique or to say that it's a dangerous ritual to do. And I've done a unintended Pan ritual, and it's pretty dangerous, Best to have some strong guys around when you do it.
Okay, what's it like to try and conjure up Pan?
Dangerous, very dangerous, because, we derive the word panic from Pan, and there are reasons for that. The word Pan means all. But if you go back into, classical times, and maybe a little earlier, maybe a lot earlier, you will find that invocations of Pan usually involved tearing people to shreds. It's sort of identical to the Dionysian mysteries. To panic, to destruction, to chaos. Now, if you do, an invocation of Pan, you're liable to have the sort of experience that again, unintentionally, a long, long time ago when I was somewhat less adept at this sort of thing, I was involved in a group ritual that was oriented towards something else altogether, but one of our number turned into the, quote, great god, unquote, Pan. And it's lucky there were several guys there because he transformed. A little, not very tall, not athletic guy turned into glowing eyes and pointy ears. I don't know about the legs. I really somehow didn't look at that, but whether it turned into hooves or not, I don't know. And tried to rape my girlfriend.
Oh, no.
And it took 3 of us to restrain the guy who has no memory of it. He's still living, so I'm not going to go into any details. But it was a terrifying experience, unexpected, at a time where we were in a remote area on a remote mountain And it was quite something. I've never forgotten that. I do tend to think if you're going to invoke anything that strong, best to do it in the most formal magical context, which is you and anyone that you are with within a circle, and you invoke only within a separate triangle that has holy names all around it, just as the circle does. And that is reasonably protective. But this was an emergency that, fortunately, if I had been alone and that had happened and it's just this guy and me, I probably wouldn't be here. Or if my then girlfriend had been alone, she would have been raped and maybe killed. I don't know. And the guy would have no memory of it, so he'd, I don't know, go to prison for life for something that really wasn't him. It was embodied in him. Pan is not the worst thing you can invoke. Some people, Satanists or whatever, they invoke demons and devils, and some reckless magicians invoke dark forces. And predictably, if they don't do it right, the minimum that you're going to get is it can become an obsession to the magician. The maximum is like the 1946 Jack Parsons and the infamous L. Ron Hubbard's invocation out in, well, it's not clear to me, although people seem to know exactly where it was. I rely on my publisher who's planning on doing something about this, but they did an invocation out in the desert where all kinds of weird stuff happens. For example, the George Adamski contact, like the seminal case in modern times, although that's been occurring all through history, was in this same area of the Mojave. And whether they were on the California side or the Arizona side, which I know very well because that was during my Tucson period, so I'm well acquainted with it. And you can't really tell, if you don't come to a Welcome to California sign, you don't know, because you just want to get out of the desert before dawn, because it gets very, very hot out there. Mm-hmm. It makes Death Valley seem almost nice. So that's where the Adamski thing occurred near Mount Palomar, and that's where an organization that really was responsible for me getting involved in the secret cipher. Bill Webb and his wife, who were two of the three co-founders of the Ordo QBLH, were living in that exact area. I mean, it's just one of those places where, I don't know, the ley lines converge, or the spirit is right, or almost all really great spiritual experiences happen in the desert, good, bad, and otherwise. So a desert, not necessarily that desert, but it's one of them. And I even, I don't really have the full story yet, so I can't really tell this one, but apparently some real negative experiences happened out there in the Mojave, somewhere along the Arizona-California border, where they take away your plants, as I found out the hard way.
Oh, no. You never want that.
Only coming into Arizona, apparently, because, I was in Tucson at among other things, the University of Arizona. And apparently Tucson used to be a place where asthmatics went because the air was clean and it was dry. But people would move there and bring their plants. And some of them were non-native. And Tucson is surrounded by 4 different mountain chains. Therefore, it's sort of a bowl in the middle of these mountain chains. And lo and behold, it became a place of some of the worst pollen year round, because different plants, come into season at different times, and the climate there is pretty temperate. It just became just the opposite of what it started out. So when I went to first moved to Arizona, I took all my possessions, and that included some plants I had been nurturing more or less forever. And they made me leave them at the border. And I said, what will happen to them? They said, probably burn them. No, it was not my best experience. They gave me a little piece of paper that said, we took your plants. Arizona, California, Department of Plant Control, or whatever. I don't know. It's been a long time. 1978, 79.
Sounds like a ripoff.
Yeah. Probably they sold them to people in New Mexico.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me. We have 2.5 minutes before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Alan Greenfield is our guest tonight. Alan, with 2 minutes to go here, when we look at rituals and we look at everything that people try and do to conjure up spirit, try and conjure up aliens, the dead, whatever it may be, most of us are amateurs when it comes to this. We don't know what we're doing. We think it's something cool to do or to try or to expand our own spiritual horizons. How do you recommend or not recommend us doing this?
If you don't feel, first of all, you had best learn some good system of sitting meditation to the point that you're able to be pretty serene in any circumstance if you go into that meditative state. That may take you a week or 10 years. But you'll know when you've reached that point. And if you're unsure, do it the way I did it and do it with a biofeedback device to show, that you've reached that point of serenity. That, I would recommend jhana meditation, which in China, that's the Indian, some dialect's name, Chan in China, and more familiar in the West, Zen. But the important thing is sitting meditation, learn that, get to know what kind of magic you're doing. There are, I think my book on sexual magic is definitive, and others not definitive. We'll put it that way. But there are a good many books on, magical practice, and I would say read on it so that you know the theory. And once you know the theory, do some relatively lightweight ritual. And if it feels right, trust your feelings on this. If it feels right, I don't mean right as in addictive, but right as in righteous, as in a correct thing to do that is not evil or wrong or going to destroy you, then go for some of the rituals that are recommended in the more competent texts. And if you at that point don't know which are competent and which are just crazy stuff,
all right.
Alan, then don't do it.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. When we come back, Alan, I'm going to open up the questions to our audience, see what they want to ask you. I'm sure you'll have some great answers. Legendary Alan H. Greenfield, The Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots, his major book for any UFO collection. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. And we're good.
The first edition of just the first draft of Secret Cipher was the first book that I sold. I went to, I had done articles since I was 14, but that was the first books to go from writer to author. And it was done, the break came from Illuminate Press, and that edition sold quite well. There's still some pirate versions of that on the internet, but read at your own risk because we've come a long way since then. But Illuminate Press really got bumped off, by which I mean not just, small presses will tend to come and go, some of them, but some of the major authors died under mysterious circumstances, all in their 40s. That included my friend Jim Keith, who died under very strange circumstances. Another friend of mine and a famous Discordian author, Carrie Thornley, died right around the same time under mysterious circumstances. And the end came for Illuminate Press altogether when the publisher, Ron Bonds, the guy who had given me that break, went to dinner at a restaurant and within hours was dead, supposedly of food poisoning. However, I don't believe the food poisoning because A...
Streaming now, Bel Air, a new Peacock original series.
Where are we going? You're gonna stay with your aunt and your uncle.
From executive producer Will Smith and Westbrook Studios.
Do you know why I'm here from Philly?
Scrapping the bull court, got nasty.
You get one shot.
Give this a real chance.
So you can show these rich people how much you care about poor black kids from the hood?
At a second chance.
Why are we working so hard to save a boy who doesn't want to be saved?
Because we owe it to him.
There's no going back.
Bel Air, streaming now with new episodes every Thursday, only on Peacock.
New video game, a phone, maybe a bike?
Give your kids a gift they'll love. The gift of learning. Give them OutSchool. OutSchool offers live, affordable, online, interactive classes for all kids pre-K through high school. With a wide variety of subjects from video game design and movie animation to private instrument lessons and zookeeping, OutSchool has something fun and inspiring for every kid. Right now, you can save $15 on your child's first class at outschool.com/give and use code GIVE.
It was a restaurant full of people and nobody else even got sick. He was with his wife. She didn't get sick. And you might get sick and die from food poisoning, among other things. But that sounds more like, something the Russians do, the polonium thing. It sounds like deliberate poisoning to me. And because he was the mover and shaker at Illuminate, they had existed all the way back to the BBS period on the internet, if you know what that is. It was originally Illuminate, and then he started a hard copy traditional press, which had a lot of well-known authors, but it was gone with the wind. So. Wow. And I was told to watch out, and I said, look, if they haven't gotten me by now, they're probably not going to get me. Time will get me in its own way, but they come to my door, they'd best be very careful, as I'm not a pacifist. And so far, so good. Ah!
Well, you know what? That's why people love you.
Well, sometimes I think, given that half of the teen ufology movement of the 1960s are still around, the other half are dead as doornails. Tim Beckley being the most recent. I mean, I've known Tim since 1962. Yeah. And we were always on very, very friendly terms. And there was nothing mysterious about his death. He was mid-70s, had a heart condition. So it was sudden, though. I mean, he just, he had mailed a letter to me, totally inconsequential, something about the latest book that he was selling, which that's what he did. He is, in fact, the only person I know of, other than the late Stanton Friedman, a nuts and bolts guy, who actually made a living from flying saucers. That's, Beckley did have a sideline, but that was his main thing. And I don't know. I mean, I was on his program many times, and the last time we were in person was at the National UFO Conference 40th anniversary reunion, and he is missed, and so are a bunch of the others.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Cat Chaser, Phil, Doug, Michael, Jim Bob, Ghost Dragon, Tits McGee ×2, Thomas, Stefan, and Steve for the awesome super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. If you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. Here we go, the final half hour. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with Alan Greenfield till the top of the hour tonight as we talk everything from UFOs to occults to sex, magic, and rituals. We're into it. Alan is one of the top occult people in North America, if not the world. Alan, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm always glad to be here and hope I have something interesting to say to each and every one of your listeners.
I'm always curious about symbolism. A lot of people get downloads with symbols. I've had it where I've brought them to you, and you and I have talked privately about this. What's with these downloads and symbols that seem to come from out of nowhere, but we just can't get them out of our mind?
Well, I think that, first of all, symbols are, as the word implies, they symbolize something, and not necessarily something that you know. I mean, the best case for crop circles is, the conventional explanation is it's good old boys, or the English equivalent of good old boys, and farmers stamping out a piece of their field so they can, do a ha-ha with the yellow journalism that is prevalent in Great Britain, and that tends to be read around the world by some people. But they look like the magical sigils that have been around for ages, since ancient Egypt. Certainly all the medieval magical grimoires have magical sigils and magical talisman. And are they a language, like the Enochian language, supposedly the language of the angels, and as George Andrews put it, the language of interstellar beings, which is a very interesting take on it, and I've quoted it repeatedly. Andrews did a couple of fantastic books about UFOs. But I think that they are a range of things. I try not to divert into other subjects that I know we don't have time for, but there's a whole school of thought on psionics, which involves using a schematic drawing and a physical turntable made out of cardboard with aluminum foil on it so that you can put it on your head afterwards, that actually functions as a machine. I think a good many of these symbols are psionic machines if used properly. And I base that on something that I found when I was introduced to the cipher by Tim Coutet, the person who really was the first person in America after the late Bill Webb to come up with a computer program that would do your decoding for you. If you put in a word or a sentence or a whole book, it would decode it instantly in a program called Lexicon, which was, unfortunately, the copy that I had was on a floppy disk, so I have nothing that will play that anymore. But there are some really great interpretations on the internet. Just look up thesecretcipher.com. It's free. But I think that they are techno-magic. And if it strikes you that this one is intended for you, put it with any others that strike you that was intended for you. And at some point, like a jigsaw puzzle, it will reveal itself to be a psionic machine. Put it together, and what you get is what you're supposed to get. And I think that's been true for magical sigils since the dawn of time. What happened with the lexicon program is Tim, who came up with was a medical programmer and came up with the lexicon program. There was a thing called the STAR 26 module. And I haven't even seen it for many years, but I remember when it would draw the different permutations of the English alphabet as filtered through the sixth iteration of drawing a straight line between each letter of the alphabet in various ways. And if you put that on run, it would run tens of thousands of alternate ciphers. But what they looked like, going by at really, really high speed, was like every sigil you've ever seen. Like embedded in the code is a code within the code that shows angelic signatures, marks, the names of demons, the names of angels, whatever you want, and every crop circle that's ever circled. So, and this was something that is based on a work that allegedly was dictated by a non-human intelligence in 1904, the year my father was born. So, actually the month my father was born, but the exact month. That is probably just coincidence, except I don't believe in coincidences. So they're all synchronicities at some level. Look up the Fibonacci sequence if you don't think this is fundamental to the nature of things.
All right.
That's Fibonacci. Don't ask me to spell it, though. I'd have to get the dictionary out.
I have some questions from our audience here for you. We're going to start off with Raz here, and I got a few of them, and we only got about 16 minutes to go, so we'll try and get through as many as possible. Raz is asking, Alan, what do you think of suicidal cults?
I try to say, if you get involved in something that discourages you from being involved in anybody outside of the whatever they call themselves, church, organization, because they won't call themselves cults. And they want you to pool your money with the other members and want you to encourage you to live in their compound or whatever. Get out of there, because they are crazy people that will do crazy things. So, some of them are not suicidal as such, but the common denominators are don't talk to outsiders. They're all troglodytes. They're all inferior beings or non-beings. Don't even talk to your family, blah, 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 blah. The object there seems to be cutting you off from any criticism. And also, if there's a charismatic leader or leaders, as in the case of Bo and Peep, the Hale Bop suicides. They may start out as something that seems very harmless, maybe involving some kind of enlightenment or, whatever their particular pitch is. And then you wind up, if you stay with it, you wind up believing everything like you're going to be taken away on a UFO when the comet goes by, but only if you kill yourself first. And there will be some people who will say, well, I'll be leaving now. The People's Temple people, by the time they realized that, some of them, they were in Guyana in South America, which doesn't have, like a taxi that you can take home. So there, almost 1,000 people died one way or another. And if you have been in an organization that you think is not a cult and you leave it and they hound you and threaten you or whatever, you are definitely in a cult. Stay away from it and denounce it. And your best weapon is to denounce it publicly and repeatedly. That's about as much as I can say about it. I think of suicidal cults as horrible, and I would like to punch them all out. And I have some experience with that, but mostly I think that the more subtle ones are not that far gone. They're not suicidal, but the worst of them are small and long-lasting, and at the end of the road, it's the cliff.
Right. Let's go to Let's go to Lala's question here. Do you know what the spiral symbol means? As a kid, when I was scared of something paranormal, I would draw them on the door or wall and didn't know why.
How long do we have? Spiral can be, did you draw it from I can't ask, it's from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom? If you drew it from the bottom to the top, it represents the Kundalini energy, which is the energy that elevates you to a higher state of being. If it descends, that depends. But I would say that given the fact that it seemed to protect you, that whichever it was, from top to bottom or bottom to top, it represented the energy of the universe coming into you in a nurturing and protective fashion. So you did the right thing, and it means, to borrow the name of a really old movie, somebody up there likes you.
Well, that's a nice way to put it. So basically, she with if I get this right, with using the spiral symbol, she was almost calling in or relaying energy, positivity to her, so that way she didn't have to worry.
Yeah, technically she was drawing in orgone energy, which is endless in the universe, and that is definitely protective. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate protection for incarnate mortal beings. So her instincts are good there, or somebody or something kind of looks after her.
Evan would like to know, Alan, what do you think of the Mandela effect?
I have some spooky stories of that sort that makes me wonder if I'm getting addled in my old age, because I remember, and I should keep a record of these things, but I don't. I remember some events at great difference from at a key point, at one key point, to what is the given understanding. There are cases that probably can be explained. I think the Bernstein Bears thing, maybe there's a technical term for it, but people may have read it as Bearstein because the name is a family name, so it people may have transposed the letters. But things like the the one that it's named for, the one about some people remember Nelson Mandela dying when he did, at least in this particular universe. And some people remember him dying in prison 20 years before, which would have been not true in this universe, but maybe somewhere else. Again, if there are an infinite number of universes, there are an infinite number of you and an infinite number of me and an infinite number of realities in which we don't exist. And everything that goes on in any one of those realities may be something that you sidle into momentarily, because the mind is a wonderful thing, and often this is very applicable. Have I got 30 seconds to do this?
You sure do.
Okay. Part of quantum theory is quantum entanglement, and I think that a lot of the big toy in neurophysics these days is attributing to the brain different aspects of the mind by looking through MRIs or whatever. That is mistaking the radio tuner for the studio that makes the broadcast. We are the studio, but we are embodied in our bodies, as the word implies, which its master control is in the brain, but the brain is just a tuner. So they're looking in the wrong place. They need to find the studio and take that more seriously. So given that, since there are quantum processes going on in the brain and everywhere else in the universe, and we're interconnected with everything else in the universe and maybe in the omniverse, that is, many universes, maybe now and again we have a glitch in the matrix, as they say, and that we remember something from a similar but different universe, a universe where, God forbid, the Nazis won World War II, or that that Mandela died earlier, which probably would have had enormous implications for South African politics. And I think all of us have had these experiences where we remember something differently from what is Orthodox history. You can make that a conspiracy, or you can say, maybe you're both correct or both incorrect, or maybe it's a different reality that you're seeing into.
Is there an opportunity, or has an opportunity happened, where we switch timelines?
I think for individuals, yeah, because there are people who both claim, and there are reasons to believe, come from a different time or a different reality, depending. It may be both, actually. I don't think anybody who is like the man from Tared, a place that doesn't exist.
There's only one place to find the most recognized brand in carpet, Stainmaster, and that's at Lowe's. Right now, get free basic installation with the purchase of Stainmaster carpet and pad, $4.99 or more. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. Install available in-store only. Requires non-refundable site assessment fee. Fee is credited to final project price if bought through Lowe's. More charges may apply. Not available in all areas. See Lowe's.com for details, exclusions, and licensure. Valid 2/19 through 4/13. U.S. only.
When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Or Philip K. Dick's vision of the Portuguese states of America, which doesn't exist but could have had history gone somewhat different way. There are people and events that exist in a different time or outside of time, and in a different place, or a different brain, B-R-A-N-E, membrane of reality. And the short answer is some people disappear and disappear forever, and there are various explanations, and some people appear out of nowhere. So, yeah, for sure. I think that goes on somewhere in the world every day, just like there's a UFO sighting somewhere in the world every day of the week, 365, year after year.
So we all experience our own individually, then, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but I think if you completely went to another reality, you would be seen by people in this reality as just disappearing. And probably after a few days, they would call the Mounties, and they'd look for you, and they wouldn't find you, and that would be a case. And if you ever showed up, I think of the Travis Walton UFO abduction case. He's gone, and then he's back, and his memory is of being abducted by aliens. But I wonder how alien it really was. It may have been totally alien, as in another world altogether. Not our outer space, but sort of other space. However, you can't say that it was a purely internal thing, because there were other witnesses, and most recently, and most, I think, convincing, there's evidence in the, as often is the case, in the tree rings from that area, which has been, they were out. Him and the group of witnesses were out, I think, doing lumberjack stuff. So they were, it's a really bad way to put it, lumberjack stuff.
Cutting down trees,
okay.
Logging,
yes. They were out logging, and there's still apparently logging in that area going on. And scientists have long since utilized tree rings as a way of analyzing what happened when, because they build up in 1 year at a time. So apparently the exact time where there was a fire in the sky, so to speak, there are burn marks in that particular ring that has been discovered just in the past few months.
Oh, wow. Let's get over to Boogie on Down's question. We got 2 minutes. Will Alan ever write an autobiography?
Oh, no. Oh, yes. Well, I've heard that before, and I suppose my experiences have been so varied. I suppose I could write an occult autobiography, which would talk about my occult experiences going back to childhood, really. But to write about the different things, I've been a student, a world traveler. I've been married multiple times. I've had many, many relationships that probably are pretty spicy by general standards. And it's just a very, very broad thing. I, to date, have had a very, very diverse and rich life. And there are high points and there are low points, but it would be, oh gosh. I remember that John Keel told me that when he wrote Operation Trojan Horse, his first book on our subject matter, well, I guess not if you count Jadu, his publisher made him cut it down. Well, it was a huge, thick book, but he said it was like 4 times that long. So I think the next 2 books that came out were sort of the sequels. I don't know if I could get it all in. So it's flattering to think that I would be worth that. In fact, the first book I had turned down from, ironically, the late Ron Bonds at Illuminate Press, was something that he said that turned me into an author, which was, actually it was at his initiation into the cult I was then involved with. But he said, "You're not famous enough to have an autobiography." I said, "Oh, no." Well. And then he said, "But the stuff about UFOs, if you took that and turned it into a full-size book, I would publish it." And I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting." And that book, my friends, is The Complete Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts.
And on that note, Alan Greenfield, thank you for your successful return to Spaced Out Radio. We will talk to you soon. Coming up next, Swamp Dwellers here with another spooky story, and the fedora-wearing John Hudson brings in the UFO report. More on Spaced Out Radio with Hour 3 next. Great show, boss.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Where do I get out of here gracefully without...
I will take you out, but I want to bring you on very soon again because we got so much more to talk about. But I want to do like a complete audience question night with you because I know they'll...
Yeah, I love to do that. That is my favorite thing to do. And, you know, they can ask me anything. I mean, that's just... And they do. They really do.
I'll get my... you know what? I've got my schedule up here right now. Do you want to do it next month?
You have to clear it through Olaf.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll talk to Olaf.
The reason is I've just arranged for him to be my record keeper because I'm old and forgetful. If I scheduled 2 events on the same day, it would be
Olaf and I talk weekly, so I'll line it up with Olaf.
Okay, that's great. I would love to be back on.
All right,
especially with the Q&A.
All right, you take care, sir.
Live long and prosper.
Take care. Alan Greenfield, everybody. Gotta love him. Gotta love him. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta blow my nose and go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. right. I am back. Hello, gorgeous Anne Celine. Terry Brown, welcome. Sovereign, you had asked about your questions. It's very difficult for me to run the show and to follow the chat room, follow the guest, when and then go way back and repeat questions. That's why I take questions in the second hour, man. And I got a lot to do here, so I apologize for missing your questions. Body Tech, good morning to you. Let's go. Orange? No. Boring red? No. Pink? Let's go purple. Silver? No. Let's try that. There's a nice blue. Crystal Light, how are you? Of course I wash my hands, Ann Palmer.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Hamshackle. Hamshackle is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time once again where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller brings us another spooky story.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. If anyone has ever seen the wild and wonderful whites of West Virginia before, this is the exact area where this event occurred. I literally had to drive by their house on the way. Hank Williams III also wrote a song about it called Boone County Blues, which really captures the essence of the depressing, drug-consumed area. I worked as a lab technician for an independent company. I would run an analysis on coal samples to determine the quality. Ash, sulfurs, whatever, things of that nature. Part of the job was driving company pickup trucks to various coal mines, train loadouts, and river docks to draft barges and collect samples. We got a call at around 2 a.m. to go pick up a training sample over in an incredibly remote area in the middle of nowhere. It was a mine, and the mine was miles away from absolutely anything. To get there, I had to drive across a place called Williams Mountain, home of Jesco and all the other whites. It's a notoriously steep, curvy, and dangerous mountain, with a very high rate of accidents. I made it to the mine and collected the sample without incident. After about 15 minutes of driving, I started back up the steep mountain. Having made the trip numerous times, I could take the curves fast, especially when it's pitch dark, and you can see headlights approaching you. The nearest stoplights Stop signs or street lights are a good 30 miles away, so it's a different kind of dark. The complete darkness just perfectly compounds the isolation. It was because I was driving so fast that I was completely caught by surprise when it appeared that there was a vehicle quickly catching me. I started speeding up, but before I knew it, they had caught up with me. When they got close, they turned on their high beams, and I could tell it was a truck from the height of the lights. But the bright lights had me somewhat blinded. It was then when the terror really began. They started edging closer and closer until they were right up on my ass. It didn't matter how fast I went. They stayed right up on me. Suddenly, they stopped in the road and killed the headlights, completely weirded out and rattled to my core. I took a huge sigh of relief and started laughing nervously as they dropped from sight. Thinking it was just some idea of a cruel joke, never had I been so ready to see that city skyline. Not too long after, and to my complete and utter horror, the lights started quickly climbing the mountain once again. Frantic, I punched the gas, almost wrecking twice trying to flee. But it was no use. Again the bright lights filled up my mirrors, and simultaneously filled my heart with fear and absolute dread. They would back off a little bit, then get extremely close, repeating this over and over, until they finally rammed me twice. The second time was hard enough to make me swerve, though thankfully I was able to ride it out. I should note that there is nowhere to pull off while traversing the mountain. Just guardrails on either side, and drop-offs wherever the rails are missing. There is only one little church on a wide spot of the road, so I tried to pull over to let them pass. I put on the signal and turned off, but my pursuers turned off as well and killed their lights. I ducked down but tried to watch for any movement. Nothing. 2 or 3 minutes probably goes by, and I made my move to frantically peel out. To my unimaginable relief, they didn't pull out, but I wasn't convinced it was over. Sure enough, the lights approached once more, though this time it was accompanied by a sound. An unmistakable gut-wrenching sound of gunshots. I had heard the term hyperventilate, but at that moment I discovered the full force of its meaning. Barely able to breathe, I ducked down as low as I could and started reciting a nonsensical plea for help. This was before cell phones were popular, but to this day, service is non-existent there. The bullets rang out like a soundtrack for my misery, and all I could do was just think at that moment if I would ever see my loved ones again. Time is truly subjective. It felt as though I was on the mountain for days, but I finally reached the end, eventually saw a few houses, and immediately pulled into the first I could. The truck didn't turn down the driveway, but lingered in the road, with the headlights off. After a couple of minutes, a porch light came on and the truck did a donut, and started back up the mountain. A man emerged from the home, but I left as soon as the truck's lights were out of sight. I yelled sorry out of the window and drove like a reckless lunatic the rest of the way. I did end up getting pulled over for speeding on the highway. I didn't even attempt to explain, as I figured it was a small price to pay, all things considered. Obviously, I never entertained the idea of ever making that run again, and my boss started collecting samples in the daytime only for that site. The mountains of West Virginia are incredibly beautiful, but there's also a lot of danger lurking in the depths of their remote location. Places that inspire movies like Wrong Turn. Places where no one can hear you scream.
Yes, we love our swamp dweller around here, as he'll be back tomorrow for another fantastic spooky story. You can check out his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, for another spooky story. All right, it is that time once again where we bring in the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the unbiased UFO report. Yeah, John's looking pretty darn good tonight, freshly shaven, hair looks fantastic. The man in black, looking for some UFO news, and fedora-wearing John, it's good to have you back. How you been doing, buddy?
Doing good, Dave. How about you, man? Nice to be here.
I am doing absolutely fantastic. I had a pretty good day today. Pretty good day.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it. And I do apologize. I'm actually just sending you. I shouldn't say that. I'm in the process of copying those the notes so I can send them to you. But yeah, no, it's that was so much fun. I mean, to me, a lot of times when some of these folks come on that have been doing this for a little while, they can really bring a very kind of different perspective,
Yeah.
and it's enlightening, it makes you think in different directions, which is a really good thing,
Hey, you sent me something on Facebook earlier today about a picture of an alien that you saw on, I believe it's Reddit that you saw it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm curious about this because I'm showing the letter to
Streaming now, Bel Air, a new Peacock original series.
Where are we going? You're gonna stay with your aunt and your uncle.
From executive producer Will Smith and Westbrook Studios.
Do you know why I'm here from Philly?
Scrapping the bull court, got nasty.
You get one shot
Give this a real chance.
So you can show these rich people how much you care about poor black kids from the hood?
at a second chance.
Why are we working so hard to save a boy who doesn't want to be saved?
Because we owe it to him.
There's no going back.
Bel Air, streaming now with new episodes every Thursday, only on Peacock.
Family. It looks a little different for everyone. For some, it's mom and dad. For others, roommates who feel like family. And for others, it's your significant other, their golfing buddies, your children, a high school soccer team starting lineup, and oh look, they're all taking you up on the offer to stay for dinner, really testing the limits of that phrase, the more the merrier. But no matter where you call home, Geico makes it easy to bundle and save on home and car insurance. Easier than making 3 frozen pizzas and assorted frozen veggies into a cohesive meal.
our YouTube audience. So for our radio audience, it's a black and white still. There's 64F-3.
And Dave, I want to just take a side note to be funny. This is actually in my notes, so you're actually covering item number 4 right now. So thank you very much for thinking like me.
Well, this was posted on Reddit. It says, so this slide was posted on 4chan, POL board or poll board, claiming to be a leak from the Pentagon 2 nights ago by someone on the inside, in quotation marks. Reverse image sites come back with no previous results anywhere on the internet. The thread rapidly was archived. John, I'm curious about this photo because we see someone who almost looks transposed in there, a human, that is wearing it looks like a radiation type suit. And there is...
I don't care about him. He's not the important part. It's the other guy that's important.
Well, an alien gray standing there.
Yeah, with really bad posture, by the way.
Yeah, and a beer gut.
Yeah. Yep.
What's your thoughts on this?
So all delivery and everything aside, I think in pictures, and so to me, the ability to take a picture and dissect it, it's beautiful, and it's very easy, and it's kind of a lovely thing. And if you take this picture and you run it through some of the algorithms out there that do image matching for reverse lookup. So I don't just mean going to like Google Images, that's important to do that, but also use tools like Pinterest where you can highlight certain areas where it'll look for shape matches. So it'll look for things where people are standing in the same pose, but maybe their clothes are totally different, because a lot of this stuff will end up being manipulated in incredibly, it's like some of the best pictures that have been faked have been pictures where like 90% of the picture has been a real Air Force picture, and they've just added 2 things and changed 1 thing and completely changed the picture, and it was that easy for them to do. And so those are the kind of things you have to look for. And I didn't spend hours, but I spent a little bit of time like doing this, and I could find nothing. I really couldn't find a thing. And so now it could be unique art. Right? If you paint an absolutely unique picture, the same thing will happen. But I gotta say that from a pure picture reflective point of view, I think it's interesting, and I would love to see this investigated. My gut feeling is it'll be proved to be nothing. But I have to admit, the fact that it's been so hard for me to find even any kind of similar picture. It's kind of odd.
I am worried about that the photo does look highly overexposed.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. And it's clearly cropped. It's clear that there was more to the picture, because it doesn't really make sense that you would have, if that really is an alien, it doesn't make sense that you would have the alien off to the side of the picture. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's just weird, right? Like, oh, I took a picture and oh look, there happened to be an alien sitting. No. You're taking a picture of the alien. The guy is the side story, right? So this is clearly a crop picture. So there's a ton of spookiness to this, but I got to admit, it does appear to be a relatively unique image, and that says something. So it could just be unique art, in which case, hats off to the guy or gal that did it. It's beautiful. Maybe turn it into an NFT, make some money. But for now, we wait and we monitor. The good news is that Reddit, the folks on Reddit are pretty aggressive, and so my guess is that it'll be run to ground pretty quickly. At least that's my hope.
All right. As we continue on with the unbiased UFO report here with the fedora-wearing John Hudson, and, we absolutely love it when John is in here going on. There's some news around Luis Elizondo and everything that goes around him. He's doing the big public tour once again, my friend, regarding UFOs. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about Lou and everything that he's doing right now.
So I think I think Lou is someone who you it's weird, but in a way you really have to take him at his word, almost at like a fanatical level, in that essentially he really just says what he's going to do. And if you think about what he's been talking about for the last couple of months, I mean, everything went quiet, and he came out and said, "Oh yeah, we slowed things down because it was getting a little crazy. Don't worry about it." And then, like a little while later, he said, "Oh yeah, it's going to speed back up again." And I mean, like he's basically telling us what happens, right? And so essentially, as far as I'm concerned, if you believe what he's been saying, and you have to at least believe what he's saying is true for in the context of what he is physically doing, and so. To me, this is just, the on schedule next gear within the transmission, right? I mean, it's like, it to me, it just seems like the next phase. What exactly that phase is and what it entails. Sadly, I'm not one of the cool kids that gets to find that out, but it's clearly, look, I mean, here's the part that I find interesting. So I as I mentioned before, I used to fly out. I used to fly a lot. I used to fly like 100,000 miles a year all over the world. I've been like 14, 15 countries giving talks, right? And when you're going out to give a talk, when you're going out to give a series of talks, you're giving up so much of your own life. You're giving up so much of your own personal time that it's really important to you that you actually make an impact. That like the reason why you're going means something, right? That it was important that it was you that went, sort of thing. And I think most people are like that. And so you have to ask yourself, okay, so what does Lou think he's going to get out of all this exposure? And so what I have to think is that it's not about Lou getting exposure. It's about Lou getting the exposure to release some information. And so I have to believe that this is part of a buildup toward an information release. To me, that's the only thing that makes sense. I could be completely wrong, but that's my gut.
I tagged you in this on Twitter earlier today, but Daniel Otis, the writer who helped us break the UFO story in Canada last week,
who has a great sense of humor, by the way.
He does. He actually got a copy of the letter from Minister or Member of Parliament Larry Maguire to Deputy Minister of Natural Resources John Hannaford. And there's some highlighted areas in there that I just want to go over with you.
Please.
And basically it says, has Natural Resources Canada ever received incident reports of drones or unidentified aerial phenomena, in brackets UAP, in or near Canadian nuclear facilities? Please find enclosed open-sourced incidents provided by Chris Rutkowski. Are reports of drone or UAP violations in and around nuclear facilities publicly disclosed? He goes on to say, I believe it would be prudent for Atomic Energy of Canada Limited to proactively reach out to their American counterparts to discuss their efforts and to inquire how they are handling these reports and investigations. But it goes to page number 2. And for people who have been following this,
video.
Well, people who have been following this for quite a long time here on Spaced Out Radio may recognize what I'm about to say. All right? And that's a big hint here. A big hint. And the letter goes on to say, I met with Mr. Luis Elizondo, who was involved in the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program from 2008 to 2017. He provided a high-level, unclassified outline of the issue. The information he provided on UAP has been previously shared in public interviews. I have also met with representatives of the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, which included Canadian representatives who also could not confirm any government efforts to study this issue. The stigma surrounding this issue is the greatest barrier to better understand this issue. It is encouraging to see it subside, as it should allow the matter to be publicly acknowledged and studied in an open and transparent way. I love it. The reason why is it confirms everything that we have said on this show for 2 years, where we said the MPs were talking to major players in the UFO world. And it was all behind secrets.
That person just yelled bank and just basically took a bunch of floating objects that were in an unknown category and just put them in lovely labeled boxes of boom, 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 boom. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's like presents.
And once again, I'm going to pat ourselves here at Spaced Out Radio on the back for this, because a lot of this is, believe it or not, our doing. I can't go into more detail than that right now, but I can say this, that everything that we have talked about, where people were saying, come on, tell us your sources, tell us what's going on, it's all in that letter. We knew Elizondo met with them. We broke it last week that the SCU, along with Hal Puthoff, had been part of these meetings. All right? This is very, very cool for us, man. And I have to take the moment to brag here. I do. Because we've been working hard on this. And the fact that Daniel Otis was able to get that letter out and get that confirmed, I love it. I absolutely love it.
No, and the thing that I love about it too is that, you know, a lot of the information that's covered, like is like we said, it's information that's already come out. And you know, very often that's all we get. And the fact that, you know, people put in the effort to actually get the confirmation letter, essentially. Get the confirmation letter, right? Signed by the parents, you know, and boom, you know, you have this beautiful, mark on your map that says, okay, you know, this is. I was especially surprised by the declaration of what years Elizondo was serving. I was like,
well, the other thing that was interesting on Twitter, I don't know if you saw it, but Chris Rutkowski actually tweeted me and said, I met with Elizondo also.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, that was part of the thread that made me realize what a good sense of humor he has. He's got a very dry sense of humor. No. And the thing is that, you know, am I honestly surprised that Elizondo met with him? Absolutely not. You know, if it was convenient to do so, I have seen no reason why Elizondo would not. Elizondo honestly really actually seems like a nice, decent human that would be very friendly in most cases, right? So, you know, to me that makes perfect sense, and you know, and it's certainly kind of a feather in his cap to show that, you know, he was seen as kind of a trusted source. But, you know, I mean, and honestly, you know, one thing that makes it really easy to believe is that we know there's only like 30 of you in Canada. So, I mean, it's got to be, you know, you got to be doing all this stuff on your own, right?
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? It just goes to show sometimes, and I realize the UFO public doesn't like it, John, but sometimes you have to keep your sources close in order to get the story out at a future date. This is what happened here with this story. In order for it to come out, I had to keep my sources close. I couldn't reveal who they are. I couldn't reveal that I knew Elizondo had met with the MP until it was brought out. And very much so, it's a good day. And you know what? I think it's great that Canada is finally getting into the UFO game on the political level. I think it's fantastic because it's going to support whatever happens south of the border as well. John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to continue the Luis Elizondo talk and more from the fedora-wearing John Hudson on the Unbiased UFO Report when we return here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Good segment there, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's probably funny. I was like sending you like the notes like right as you threw that picture up. I was like, awesome.
That was good timing. I wanted to ask you about that tonight, so I'm glad you put it up there. The hell are time crystals?
Well, it's funny. That's actually what I'm trying to find right now a cleaner explanation that ties it all together. But basically, what it is this is a real world. This is real world science, kind of bumping into the very old slide deck of Edgar Fouché.
Very nice. Very nice. That was some nice zebra action there.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, let's see if they're still there. We got a... Hold on. We got a... what do we got here? We got a... come on, share. There we go. We got a gnu, or a wildebeest. There's a zebra way in the background over here. There we got a wildebeest right here. Boy, we've had springboks, zebras, and now a wildebeest hanging on a... God, that's ugly. Seriously. That is ugly. Oh, why did I do that? I didn't have to do that. Hold on, let's just go like this. Kill that one. And then we'll go like this. There we go. Look at that. Well, they're going to zoom in. They're doing a lot of zooming in this morning. Whoa, look at those birds. What the hell are those? Those some sort of weird-looking crow? Boy, those antlers look sharp. I wouldn't mess with that wildebeest. Unless I was like a lion. Remember the great space coaster, Gary Gnu? There's no gnu's like good gnu's with Gary Gnu. We got about 1 minute. Big thank you to Cat Chaser, Phil, Doug, Michael, Jim Bob, Ghost Dragon, Tits McGee ×2, Thomas, Stefan, and Steve for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you so much for the love that you guys are supporting us. If you're wondering what the hell this is on camera here, this is a live camera out of Namibia. It is 9:34 in the morning over there. They're 10 hours ahead. And I just found this channel like about a month ago or so, and I just find it like totally relaxing. So I throw it up here every now and again when there's animals. And finally we got some animals. This has been fantastic. Excuse me. Where are we at? We got about 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. All right, John, 15 seconds. We're rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you have missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the unbiased UFO report with the fedora-wearing John Hudson. John, we are sticking with Luis Elizondo here because he kind of dropped a big name here. Basically that we needed to check Neil's calendars for proof that ATIP meetings were held. What is this all about?
Yeah, so as I said, there are people in this world that actually just say exactly what they mean and what they're going to do, and we're not used to it, so it's a little off. But he appears to be in that mode at this point. Because he just laid it out for us. He just said, "Oh, and by the way, there's this one guy, Neil. You should check his calendar. It's really important." and
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Wait a minute. I've heard that before. That's the note Jeremy wrote to me in my yearbook in the 6th grade. How'd you even know that?
Because it's from Geico.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Dear Luke, have a great summer. P.S. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. Love, Jeremy.
Geico's had this tagline for years, because we help save people money.
So wait, you're saying Jeremy copied you? Yeah, that actually does sound like something the J-Man would do.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Entrepreneurs and philanthropists. Inventors and world leaders. What do all these influentials have in common? They trust BNY Mellon Wealth Management because our active wealth approach is built to be as active as you. No matter what industry you're in or what causes you're pursuing, we devise a bespoke wealth strategy, helping you grow your influence so you can do well better. BNY Mellon Wealth Management.
And so luckily for us, needless to say, people were paying attention, as people tend to do. And so what we have is we have a person by the name of Klaus, to give him some credit, who drew attention to the fact that this is who Elizondo was talking about when he urged the Pentagon to check Neil's calendars for proof that ATIP meetings were held. And what he provided is a nice 2-page document, some of which is quite redacted, that basically goes into detail about what Mr. His name is Mr. Neil. What would you say, Tipton, I believe?
Tipton.
Director Tipton, a director for Defense Intelligence, Collection and Special Programs, Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, and that's just like one sentence of a whole lot of government gobbledygook. This guy has been doing this for a long time. He's been doing it well, and this guy is 38 years in signal intelligence. Man.
So why is this guy important to UFOs?
So basically, if he hadn't been involved with UFOs, he wouldn't be important. What's important is that Lou Elizondo is able to call out this individual who's clearly a very well established, very respectable individual that held a position of authority during his time, and he is someone who Elizondo is saying interacted with the ATIP program. So if you want proof that the ATIP program was doing things, go check his calendar. You will find appointments on there. And so what he's doing is he's throwing people a bone. He's saying, look, if you want proof, go check his calendar. That's where you'll find proof.
Very interesting.
It's as simple as that.
Very interesting.
It's kind of like, here's a bone, go chase. You know?
Well, I think it adds another name to the puzzle, because everybody was always asking, who is Elizondo working with at the Pentagon? And of course, we're not going to recognize any of the names, but over time, these names like Neil Tipton are going to leak out.
Well, especially considering that if you go down to the end of this article, it says in his tense, this is only a partial list of individuals I worked with in ATIP who can substantiate my role if necessary. Is that in Elizondo's tense, or is that in his tense? I think that's in his tense. If necessary, I can provide the names of other individuals from the Central Intelligence Agency, Department of the Army, Department of the Navy, the Office of Director of Intelligence, the Senate staff. Many of these individuals received regular briefings from me, and particularly in meetings involving the program and its investigation of UAP phenomenon. I'm not sure what tense that's in. Do you know, Dave? That sounds like it's in his.
Totally does.
That's really nutty. I didn't catch that earlier. Wow. Yeah, this was not an individual who was, who had a bunch of jobs and was occasionally bothered by this. This is someone who was dedicating a significant amount of their energy to it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's move on here, John, as we look at Roderick Martin. Who is this gentleman?
So I want to talk about this for multiple reasons. One, so Roderick Martin is he's a MUFON investigator from I think Texas. I think it's Texas. He's also an experiencer himself. He witnessed something when he was, I believe, 12. He said, and he's got a real passion for this. And he kind of got his start from a social media point of view with the Clubhouse tool. He started a UFO Clubhouse area very early, and was noticed by the Clubhouse startup staff as kind of someone who had potential, and so he was kind of chosen as someone to kind of showcase. And this has continued to snowball, and at this point, his UFO channel has 24,000 people in it, which is not small thing, right? And on top of providing a platform for other people to open up rooms and have discussions, he runs a very, attempt to be a professional weekly show where he really kind of puts on a very entertaining, package sort of a thing. And the thing is that, I could see some people being a little bit standoffish with him because he comes off as being extremely business savvy and extremely marketing savvy, but with that said, I don't think he's necessarily using it for nefarious means. But the other thing that I found very, very interesting is that essentially when I've interacted with Roderick a little bit. He's a very, very nice gentleman. The way he treats people he interviews it's lovely. He's a really kind soul. But when it all started, it was actually all because of Anjali, right? That's actually what got that whole thing started. It was him getting Anjali to come on the Clubhouse and give talk. That's what that's what got the whole thing. That's how the whole thing blew up. Now, I didn't catch the last 30 minutes or something of his interview today, but in the first 2.5 hours that this guy was interviewed, he didn't mention her once. Now, he doesn't have to, and I think it's a mistake for us to too closely bound the interviewer and the interviewee in any way, shape, or form, right? You have to have some separation between those things, right? But to me, it still is somewhat of a potentially important data point, considering what we recently found out about her story. That essentially this might be an indication that there's some separation going on there as well.
Speaking of Anjali, Steve Cambion from the Truth Seekers podcast announced today that he has actually scheduled an exclusive interview with Wayne, the gentleman whose property that Anjali claims has a cave on it with aliens. And I don't know how
Steve,
to...
I don't know if you're watching this show, if you ever watch it, but my respect for you, man, just went, wow.
I mean, I think it's great. Okay,
I'm in awe.
I'm surprised that he got him to do it, and congratulations to Steve for that.
He got him to do it.
But
wow,
are we pushing this Anjali story a little too hard to try and literally wreck her credibility as a person?
Okay, I think it's good that you said that, and I think that there is always the danger of that. However, I will applaud Cambrian and some of his others, his group, in that I've been surprised a number of times where I've seen these very critical examinations of her, and then they've ended up falling back to a position of, but we have to consider that there could be this going on and this going on and this going on and this going on. I'm kind of surprised the number of times that they really kind of offer a pragmatic out for her, in a very kind of understanding way, which I find a little surprising. But I think in the context of what we've seen, I don't think that can be said yet, because of the fact that Wayne has been as much of the discussion as she has been from the very beginning. Wayne has been front and center, and it hasn't been Wayne. It's been the ghost of Wayne. And so if Wayne's willing to talk, he deserves the chance. And he absolutely deserves the chance. And so as long as he's doing it because he thinks he's going to get something out of it, then I'm all for it, right? But I don't really know, I mean, it's like, it's hard to say. I don't know.
Here's
I don't know if I would see it that way.
I want to hear that now, and I will be honest, I will be tuning in to Truth Seekers and Steve Cambion for that. And you know what? Steve is I may not agree with a lot of his shows, but he is a pit bull when it comes to gaining information. And
look, you can disagree with his methods, but his goals are dead on, right?
Well, on most parts. And I will say this, okay? Nobody wins in this story. Okay? You're going to have... Wayne has already come out publicly. Let me finish. Okay? Yeah. Wayne has already come out publicly saying that there is no mountain, there is no cave. We believe Anjali was hallucinating off of marijuana oil or CBD oil, whatever you want to call it, all right? And that's where she saw the aliens in the cave. But, number two, let's just say Wayne and his wife want to get out of the story because they aren't happy with the way Anjali has presented what truly happened. All right, now we have him coming on, denying it all, which puts egg on Anjali's face, and we're still no better off for the truth. But what we have is another potential experiencer who's been shot down in flames because somebody doesn't want to corroborate her story. So,
agreed. No,
go ahead.
I was going to say the flip side is I agree with everything you said, but I would disagree with the fact that there's no value in it. In that, essentially, when she first came onto the scene, I cannot tell you how many conversations I got into with people, side conversations, private conversations, that started out with like, "Are you watching this? I'm getting worried." And what the worry was about was the fact that there was so many new people coming into this because of everything that's going on. And they were all coming in with this very trusting, open mind to absorb the information that a lot of us are providing. And then you had this new person that was providing information that, we were really unsure of, And so there was a huge danger of her leading a whole bunch of lemmings right off a cliff and souring a bunch of people on this entire topic for 10, 20 years for no good at all. And we might have sidestepped all of that, right? I mean, think about how many people got burned by, their ups and downs with Lazar, or their ups and downs with, what's the guy's name who went to jail, but he had the cool videos of the shadow people. Anyway, but you know what I'm talking about. This has been going on for years.
Well, I find it interesting. I really do.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, absolutely.
And I'm very, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I think in the end, no matter what, Anjali gets egg on her face. She will continue to fight her own lonely mortal fight, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. John, got to say goodnight to you, my friend. We got to get to the news.
Yep.
And we'll talk.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Talk to you very soon, buddy.
Yep.
All right, Shirky Poo, what do you got for us? All right, Shirky Poo's got the news all updated for us. A man who was hospitalized after being bitten by a black widow spider feared he would lose his penis altogether. Yet Fergus Fairley woke up on the morning of January 7th at his mother's house in Ireland when he noticed a marble-sized lump on his penis. The 26-year-old initially dismissed it. Why? But over the next few days, the lump grew bigger and bigger, and no, this wasn't Viagra. On the third day, he finally was persuaded to go to the hospital after the lump had reached the size of a golf ball and was turning purple. I had no idea what it was, Fergus said. When I first went to the hospital, the doctors didn't know either. It was this constant burning pain, and the lump kept getting bigger and bigger. Well, to make matters worse, just hours after he arrived at emergency, the huge cyst burst. You can feel it when you say it. Oh, God. Leaving a giant hole that there had not been one before. Over the next few days, doctors ran a number of tests on Fergus and finally spotted the venom of a black widow spider in his blood test. False widow spiders are now increasingly common across Ireland and share a similar toxin to the black widow, about 2/3 as powerful. Fergus said, I couldn't believe it when they found the venom of a black widow spider in my blood. I'd never even heard of one before. While their venom is rarely fatal, a black widow bite can cause muscle cramps and pain so intense it can be compared to appendicitis or a heart attack. Fergus continued, I got told it would probably end up being dead if it hadn't burst in the hospital because it would have likely got infected. Yeah. They're still not sure if his willy is going to, be able to perform again. But nonetheless, they haven't had to remove it. Yeah, he said, I was convinced I was going to lose it. The doctors didn't know any more than I did and had never seen a bite down there before, so I was very worried. The pain was unbearable, too. Oh, can you imagine that breaking? That cyst on the old, your best friend. Oh. Yeah, I think every man right now listening to this is literally grabbing themselves just to say, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to be just fine. There's no black widows here. Yeah, be careful, guys. Be careful. The manager of a pub in the Midlands has hit back at a customer who complained about a family buffet at the venue, claiming they didn't cater to people with allergies. It's fair to say that the manager of the Old House and Home in Walsall didn't hold back with his comments, pointing out that the woman scoffed down 3 plates of scran before leaving her complaint. Oh, he kept the receipts as well, because he got it all on CCTV evidence of the woman. The pub has a 3-star rating on TripAdvisor, and the reviews online are broadly positive, but this person clearly didn't enjoy the experience, claiming that the food was less than acceptable for those of us with no dietary requirements, and those with allergies were not provided. The woman, your guest, given the name provided was Lily, left a 1-star review after hitting up the restaurant back in November, writing that they booked a family buffet and had told management that 2 members of the party had food allergies. However, she then claimed that there was no assurances given to her upon arrival that the allergies had been noted and catered for. Her review stated, pre-booked the family buffet well in advance, ensured the management knew the exact requirements for 2 of our guests who had food allergies, one of which had a severe allergy and carries an EpiPen at all times. Nothing was as promised, and the food provided with no assurance that the allergies had been catered for. The food supplied was less than acceptable for those of us with no dietary requirements. Saddest thing is they will not acknowledge these issues and choose to ignore them. Someone may have died had they eaten an item they were allergic to. Have tried to contact them, but no response. However, the manager, Adam, plays the hero of the day here, decided he couldn't take any more, as well as stating that he had responded to the customer by phone and email. He also said he's got footage of the woman eating loads of food. Adam wrote, I'm very sorry that you felt the need to write this review, particularly as you had contacted us via email and phone call to try and resolve your quarrels. All your noted allergy requirements were met and noted on the buffet. May I add that the food catered for specific allergens is perfectly fine to eat for people without an allergy. As a sandwich buffet with difficulties around multiple allergens, you receive more food than our normal allocation for such a small buffet request. We have multiple functions involving buffets and great word-of-mouth reviews from what we supply. The food cannot be that bad, as you had 3 platefuls of it as far as my CCTV cameras show, so I'm sure that you were trying to do, I'm unsure what you were trying to achieve. Just boom! Sock it in her mouth. Sock it. Got her back. All right, quickly, thought of the day. All right, what's your thoughts on magic and rituals? Let's go to Bobby. They're about pushing the probabilities in your favor. There are no miracles, but if you push the probabilities to the edge of what's possible, things will happen in your decision and direction. Ada, they work. Doug, depends on the rituals. John, I think everyone's religious rituals are their own. None of my business. Nicole, sensory manipulation and setting intentions, sacred, forgotten, forbidden knowledge, alchemists gone wild. Think of all what we might know if those hundreds of years of persecution of non-Christians didn't happen. Boom. Thank you to everyone in the Thought of the Day. Shirky Poo for the news. John and Swamp Dweller for coming in hour 3. And, of course, Alan Greenfield talking UFOs, aliens, and much more. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, LGAB, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, and Twitter. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woe Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
When you need business mobility solutions that are more than just business as usual, you need Enterprise. A trusted partner, Enterprise has the expertise to help you go the extra mile. For the short term, for the long haul, and everywhere in between. So go with someone who thinks outside the box truck and get custom transportation solutions that maximize productivity, reliability, and savings. Go with Enterprise and start driving business.
Zenni's Blocks lenses help to protect the eyes by keeping harmful blue light out. Because they're virtually clear, add blocks to any Zenni frame for stylish, all-day protection. Get a complete pair of prescription or non-prescription Blocks glasses starting at just $24. Protect your eyes now at Zenni.com.